Hey everybody, I'm Tommy and you're on the boat. What's happening? We're going to get right to it. I know you're all here. I'm going to say hello to all of you at once. No disrespect. Here's why I'm doing it. Johnny goes earlier than he used to, so I'm really in Johnny's spot. And the trouble becomes that this isn't always the best spot for upload speed. So I want to get in as much information as I possibly can before this thing decides that it no longer wants me to be putting out any messages. So we're going to get to it. I did a show about 3i Atlas, and we started talking about this third interstellar object that was picked up by the Atlas early warning system to tell us when things are stand a chance of slamming into us. That was kind of what it was designed for. We find ourselves in a very unusual position. I said last night, the odds of this thing hitting the Earth are nil. In fact, the odds of it running into anything in our solar system are nil. That's changed. According to most scientists, this thing is doing things that comets don't do. I'm not here to tell you the world's over. I'm not here to tell you that this is the end of the Earth as we know it or any such thing. I am here to tell you that there's something the size of Manhattan that is traveling through our solar system from some other place. This is interstellar. So this came from a different place. It's not from the Milky Way. And it's going about 135,000 miles an hour, which is really, it's good times. It's moving. Are we living in the movie The Independence Day? Well, we might be. Arabian Bard, good to see you. We might be. There's a lot of really weird things that are happening with this. It's not acting as any other comet ever has. Now, I'm not a lunatic, and I'm not here to scream about conspiracies or any such stuff. Maybe there are more collections of gas in certain parts of this thing, and the sublimation, right, the turning of these solids into gases cause propulsion. Anything in space, if you just, right, we use compressed air to move ships in space. We use an air compressor. Fire a little air out, and that steers the thing, course and on course. It's looking very much like this rock is doing the same thing. Now, I'm not here to say there's no chance this is natural. I'm not. However, when you start taking everything into account, for instance, this is doing a flyby of at least 4 celestial bodies and then the sun, right? The odds that it flies too close to all of those things or close enough to all these things to get a really good look at them, this isn't normal behavior, and it's not doing things the way science says it has to. For instance, these large celestial bodies that it's passing have unbelievably strong pulls, right? Gravitational pulls. Our sun keeps everything in the Milky Way going around in circles around it. So very often when things do come into the solar system, the gravitational pull of the sun is going to keep it going in an orbit. So we'll see it again in a while, right? Halley's Comet, that kind of thing. And we see thousands of miles behind it, these amazing dust particles that light up in really cool spectrums of color that make things like Halley's Comet or Hale-Bopp or any of those things that come by really cool to look at. And they were all super excited about this because this was going to be the absolute best view we were going to have of an interstellar object. So scientists were like, holy crap, how cool is this? Everyone was high-fiving. There are no scientists that are high-fiving anymore. And there have been a lot of really strange things that are happening. The scariest for me is that they don't want us talking about it. Plain and simple, when all of these things happen in the past, let's see what we got here. I said I would be the only time I would comment. I got work, guys. I love you. All still have a great debate and a great night, and I hope nobody is shot, right? You got to love Christopher Cooper. Hey, have a great night, brother. Stay safe, please. And you know what? Let's pause real briefly because somebody sent me an email, and I'm gonna do this real quick because we're all intelligent people, so it's probably worth doing this. Somebody sent me an email and said, the problem is free speech is dead. And they were not referring to what you might think. They're referring to the fact that people are getting fired for the things that they say about what happened with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And I would like everybody to pay attention to this because I know that our audience is smart. This is for the less intelligent that may come across this. You're allowed to do freedom of speech whenever you want. The best example you can possibly come up with, in my humble opinion, would be the taking of the knee at football games. This is people exercising their right to free speech. Nobody went out and hit Colin Kaepernick with a bat, duct taped his mouth, tied his hands behind his back, told him he couldn't speak. They didn't kill him. They didn't lock him up. right? They let him speak. Now, his boss said, that doesn't really line up with the beliefs of my company. Now, if I have a company and I call it Christ is King, and you come in, right, and you say, well, you know what? Every other word out of my mouth is an F-bomb. It's just kind of my freedom of speech. I can go, not at this company. Sorry. It does not align with what we believe. You're not allowed to communicate that way. Working for this company, you're fired. The boss has the right to fire you because you exercised your free speech. Free speech, the right to free speech means you can say whatever you want. It doesn't mean your boss has to like it. Bosses have the ability to crap can you if they think you're a bad human being. That's kind of how it goes. And most really big companies have things along the lines of, hey, we have these clauses that cover this exact thing, right? We talk exactly about this. If your social media is foul, most really large corporations all have this now. If your social media footprint does something that it finds offensive, you're fired. So this isn't free speech. Let's not get it messed up. Free speech is allowed. It's constant. People are doing it. Those people said it. It's out there. No one's taking it down. They're not, locking them up. They're not removing their ability to say it. But the consequences of free speech, if I go to a women's rights march and I stand in the middle of it and scream through a bullhorn bad jokes about abused women, there's a really good chance no woman is ever going to talk to me again on planet Earth. I had my right to free speech. I can do whatever I want. I probably will never, ever have a woman in my in my sphere ever want to speak to me again. But you're allowed to exercise your right of free speech. And by the way, if you're a jackass, right, you want to use the N word with a hard R, you got a right to do that. It makes you look like a troglodyte, right? It makes you look like a cave dweller, but you have the right. Hate speech is protected, right? All speech is protected. However, it doesn't mean you get to keep your job. So don't send me any more of those emails because it's really frustrating to try to explain that in an email. But free speech is great. And there'll never be any fights here because I can disagree with people and not want to kill them. Unless, of course, those people start to beat on people in my chat, in which case they will disappear. Do you know why? Because this is my house. Sorry, it's my channel. The checks come to me. And if I decide that your speech does not align with what I am talking about in a kind manner, you can come in here and disagree with everything I say all day long. You can go back and watch some incredible debates with me and some people that never agreed with anything I said. And I loved them. Not just the person, the debates. Because both people got to hear both sides. And it was actually pretty cathartic stuff. However, doesn't mean that if you start calling people names and doing things along those lines, that I'm not just going to deep six you and make you go into the recesses of the place where no one ever comes back. Sorry, it's just how it works. But free speech is alive and well, have no fear. So here we go. Why is 3i Atlas getting scary? I told you guys it's not going to hit anything. Scientists now say, it's got a shot. It might hit Mars. Now, you say, how does somebody say there's no chance it's going to hit Mars, but now all of a sudden it's going to hit it? Well, that's because this thing is doing something that scientists are calling propulsion, not to be confused with sublimation. Okay, so if you have a solid patch of nitrogen on the side of a big rock that's heading through the solar system, and the sun, right, or another celestial body that puts out a ton of heat or radiation, sublimates that, doesn't turn to a liquid and go out into space. It just gases. Well, when it gases, it moves off of it, and it might move it slightly. But this is doing it in ways that are really odd. Like what would be considered sublimation is coming off the opposite side where you wouldn't normally see sublimation because it's not exposed to the celestial body that's cooking the gas, so to speak. Good night, Christopher Cooper. God bless, man. So what we have here looks a lot more like what we do in spaceships, and that's making people sort of pause. Then they got kind of depressed because it seemed to break up. Scientists sort of hung their head and said, well, I guess it's just a rock. But when things break up in space, they have a very predictable pattern that happens. They tend to disintegrate. And the things turn into smaller particles, and it becomes a very long tail. And it's beautiful and epic to look at. And people take pictures of it. And you'll see blow-ups of it. And it's like Halley's Comet, right? First of all, scientists up until this breakup said, this thing hasn't changed. Like they're saying billions of years that this thing may have been cruising through through space, right, to achieve the speeds that it's reaching. However, at the speeds that it's reaching, by the way, it could take you from California to New York City or Maine, right, from coast to coast of the United States, as far as you could possibly travel in under a minute. That's hauling the mail. That's faster than a bullet, and it's big. It's really, really big. Think about Manhattan for a second. Now, granted, you got skyscrapers, you got a lot of tall buildings, but there's 8 million people on Manhattan. It's not a stretch to think that maybe you could put a lot of life forms inside this. And there are a lot of scientists coming up with a lot of different opinions. However, what we're doing right now is having a healthy conversation. We're asking, hey, Reese, we're asking questions right now that people ought to be asking, right? Could this thing be a probe? Could it be coming to check us out? How is it possible that this thing isn't shooting a really big tail off of it like every other comet we've ever seen? Oumuamua, which we talked about yesterday, didn't do any of that, right? But it accelerated and it did things that didn't make any sense, but it shot nothing off of it, so it didn't act like a comet. The other interstellar object, which is called something I Borisov, that looked like a comet, right? We were very used to it. It makes sense. Comets are big, huge balls of frozen slush. And when they get close to objects that create a lot of heat, like our sun, they start to sublimate, and that gas leaves really, really cool tails behind it. And we have these high-tech devices that capture the different spectrums of color. And in doing so, we can tell you what's creating that color. So it would have to burn a lot of carbon in order to make that color, right? Or it would have to burn a lot of oxygen in order to be able to make that color, or it would have to burn a lot of hydrogen, or whatever the case may be. We're seeing really odd things happening with this. Now, the breakup put this very large Manhattan-sized object into smaller objects, none of them teeny, but it broke up into a series of objects that are all acting the exact same way as the big one. They're not sublimating, they're not disappearing, they're not shattering, they're not disintegrating. They're all traveling in what now is starting to look more like maybe an armada, right? And if you're not familiar with that word, it's a bunch of ships. And there are people out there that believe that. There's a guy at Harvard named Loeb, Dr. Loeb, and he's been doing an awful lot of talking about the fact that nobody that he works with and nobody that's in his field is willing to entertain publicly the idea that this thing might not be a chunk of rock. And if it is, the rock is engineered. Again, we talked about a very high concentration of nickel that appears in some of the readings. Nickel is manufactured. You understand? Like we have iron. You can dig up iron ore. You're not going to dig up stainless steel. You understand the concept? You take iron ore, you heat it, and you can turn it into things like stainless steel, right? Well, nickel is found everywhere where you find iron ore. They're attached. We have to separate the nickel from the iron ore. Now, maybe in the solar system that this comes from, and the interstellar, way beyond, that is a part of this, maybe nickel doesn't need iron. We have no point of reference to that on Earth because nickel absolutely needs iron. You're not going to find one without the other. And you're going to require a smelting process or a extraction process to get the nickel out of it. But the scariest part of this, for me, forget every hypothesis that everyone's giving you. All right? Forget all of them. And then just go with why aren't they letting us hear any of this? Do me a favor, put a deuce in the chat if you're catching this on your mainstream news channels. Because if this is just a freaking rock, it's the biggest rock, right? This thing, there have been bigger, but it's the first one that ever acted this way. This is the size of Manhattan and it's moving around. This thing is changing direction. It's changing course. There are scientists who have theorized that some of the things that we're seeing is this thing dropping probes or something. They make reference to a dandelion. You know when a dandelion dies and it becomes that little cool white ball? If you shake it, things go everywhere. They're saying that as this thing starts getting closer to certain celestial bodies, it seems to be dropping more stuff off. Okay, so mainstream science doesn't like talking about the fact that there could be aliens. They just don't sort of groove to that. But the people that have been talking about it for years talk about certain theories. One that they will call the deep forest theory. If you're in the middle of a deep forest, right? Say in Maine, or if you're in a deep forest, say in the Milky Way or in the cosmos, maybe it's not a great idea to shout, "Hey, I'm over here," because in dark forests, that often brings things that can eat you, right? So the dark forest theory is that we should probably keep our mouths shut and do everything we can to just not keep trying to reach out into space with signals and with all of these things that will tell more advanced creatures than us that we're here. We have seen a lot of science fiction movies over the course of our lives, and it shapes how we view what will happen if aliens come here. It comes in two ways, right? They're going to show up and say, hey, we got to fix everything. You guys are doing this nuclear stuff. You're trying to kill each other. This AI thing is out of control. We're going to get you back on path. That's one scenario that is played out in films. The other is it parks its huge butt over Houston and nukes it, right? And then it starts nuking other cities and it starts sending ships out. There are a lot of theories, though, that, okay, granted, if we take that, why would they have to come here? This thing is traveling fast enough that if it peeled off, say, I don't know, 1/12 of its size and just fired it into the center of the earth, then how life as we know it is over. Doesn't mean everybody's gone, right? But life as we know it, you're not going to get online the next day. In fact, there's a really good chance that, if you are anywhere near water, I couldn't get any closer to water, then you're gone, because this thing more than likely will hit the ocean. There's very little land mass on Earth. If you look at it, the 25,000 miles around or whatever, look where all the land masses are. If something hits our planet, the odds are most likely it's going to hit the ocean. There are scientists that have said if you take a BB, like as in what comes out of a BB gun, and it were to hit the Earth at light speed, then everything on this planet would be gone. Now, this thing ain't going light speed, right? But it's going faster than a bullet. And it is considerably bigger than a BB. In fact, it's the size of a good-sized city. Why are people so reluctant to think that we may not be the only planet God filled with people needing saved and loved just like us? Well, Jesus did say in the Bible that in my Father's mansion there are many rooms. If this was not the truth, I would not have said it. I'm not trying to be a theologian here, folks, but he did say that. And that's interpreted in a lot of different ways. But to me, it could sound like, we're one of many. And I don't have a problem with that. But I don't have a problem with any of this. I don't have a problem if this thing slams into our planet, to be really honest with you. I mean, if there's ever been a time this planet needed a really good washing, now might not be such a bad time. 20% of what is the civilized part of this planet, right? The advanced and the civilized, 1 out of 5 say, if you don't agree with something that somebody says, you can kill them to stop them from talking. That's not evolution. That's de-evolution. We don't hang out with one another anymore. That's de-evolution. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff on this channel talking about what we can do to be better people for ourselves. That's important. And I feel better today than I have felt in, I can't remember how long. The poison seems to, and I'm saying this really cautiously, but the poison seems to be out of our bodies. We've drank 15 gallons? Yeah. 15 gallons of water since diagnosed. That's a pretty decent amount of water. We're going really hard on it. One of the reasons that people are so reluctant to think this, just Joan, if you go back through all of history, right? We feel a need as human beings to be very important, to be very much the center of everything on earth and everything in the universe and everything in God and everything. We really feel the need to be important. And when we look at every other creature on this planet, right, we look around and go, well, I'm a little sharper than the cat. I mean, I love Squirrel Nut Zipper more than anything in the world, but if I decided I wanted to take her off this planet, she probably couldn't think of the 10,000 ways that I could do that. It's almost the same thing. If we're talking about something that has the ability to do what we're watching this thing do, then maybe that's a possibility. There are a lot of people also who are taking the stance that this very well might be demonic as opposed to alien. And there are people that very much believe this. And I'll tell you what, hey, Rip, good to see you. And I very much believe that this is probably just as logical a concept. No offense to anybody, but here's the thing. We stare at the sky a lot, right? We really do. And we've been doing it for a very long time. This is the third interstellar object that we've ever seen. And they've all come in the last couple of years. Does that mean that they were coming this entire time and we just didn't have the technology to see them? Science doesn't back that up. We've had the technology to see them for a hot minute, but it's been very, very active in the last 3 years. No one's really sure why. But if we look back at alleged contact with things not of this planet, they seem to coincide with us being screw-ups massively. Right after World War II, there was a real spat of them, right? All of the stuff that happened with alien craft that had supposedly landed. It's always very near nuclear facilities or nuclear bases or where missiles take off from or any of these things. And if you think about what nuclear, weapons do, we're talking about something that unleashes an amount of energy that probably shouldn't be played with. And it does seem like these things tend to pop up around those times. I don't know if anybody is ready to deal with this or whatever, but Russia's moving nukes all over the place. There are tactical nukes being moved by Russia everywhere. This is reality. It's not fun to talk about, but they're doing it. Now, there's a difference between a nuclear weapon and a tactical nuclear weapon. Tactical nuclear weapons are designed to be slightly smaller in yield, but more importantly, to leave less radiation. The idea being that after a period of time, you can then march through and clean up. Now, that's certainly different than what we did, with Little Man and Big Boy. Those were very dirty bombs by the standards of what we have today. And we do make tactical nukes that are designed to not destroy a planet, but to destroy cities. And that's what's getting moved around. If they launch it, is it the end of the planet? No, it's not. I mean, I don't think that other people will instantly start launching and we'll all be dead instantly. But it's World War III, to be sure. They launched those things, and we've chosen a side. We've been pumping money into one side of this battle for a long time. It's logical to think that where we are today on the planet, wars will be fought by proxy. No one wants to see your kid come home in a body bag. We tried that in Vietnam, right? They would come on every night and tell you how many people died in Vietnam that day, and the support for the war evaporated. What will happen when wars are autonomous and you don't lose boys and girls in war, when you can use machinery to go and do it? I think that we will be much more comfortable annihilating societies. It's kind of disgusting, but I lean more towards the democratic theory. And I also think that maybe the earth is a lot bigger than we are told. Well, you know something? There's probably something to back that up. Today's tactical nukes have about the same power as what we dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, just a lot less radiation. To be sure, that's exactly what it is. I'm not saying it has less of a yield in terms of kilotons, but the radiation afterwards, the theory is it's supposed to burn off a great deal of the radiation in the blast. Rip says, it's like other beings have vested interest in keeping us from using nukes to destroy each other or this planet. So if you're somebody that buys into this line of thought, and I'm open-minded about a lot of stuff, folks. I research it. It doesn't mean I believe it, but I'm open-minded to a lot of stuff. And there are a lot of people that believe that when we look to Mars, we're looking to our future, right? Not Mars's past. There are a lot of people that believe, and there's evidence, depending on who you read, to demonic theory, there you go, to back it up, that Mars destroyed itself, right? Maybe with nukes. Now, if you're observing from another galaxy and you've already seen this happen once, then you've got an interest in maybe seeing us not do that. And maybe that's what's going on. But I'm a little concerned about the shutting down of availability for people like me to go and research this stuff. And I'm not here to tell you that every single one of these outlets has shut down what they're doing. You can still go get the stuff. But when it first came into our vision, when it was first picked up by the telescopes in Chile, they were gung-ho to dumb this down so that a guy like me could read this and go, oh, I get it. So normally, because these things are mostly ice, we get an awful lot of hydrogen because H2O is what makes up water, right? So these are ice balls. The tail should be, right, made of nitrogen, obviously. It's not, right? We're not emitting that. We're emitting carbon, and this is carbon dioxide. So this is a very odd thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And they made it so that the average dumb Joe like myself could read it and figure out why 3i Atlas was just so damn different. Why this was such a much cooler thing than anything else we had ever seen come through. They're still putting stuff out, but I will defy anybody that I've ever met to read what they're writing and tell me what the hell it says. Right? If I want to talk about anything that I spent a lot of time in, I could talk about public speaking and do it in such a way that only a public speaker would understand what I'm talking about. Because of the lights that we use, because of the setup, because of slang that public speakers use when they talk about what we do for a living when no one else is around, or drugs. It's amazing to come to another country and say the word high and realize that there is no translation for high. They don't have that word. There is nothing. They don't talk about getting high. They talk about using drugs. But that getting high thing is a very unique thing to America, right? So language is unique to cultures and hobbies and sciences. And the language that they're using now is designed so that there's about 50 or 100 people on this planet that can understand what the hell they're saying. It's not an accident. There's also reports of a lot of these equipment having malfunctions. And if you research it, they say to you, really normal that this stuff happens. Very, very normal that this stuff happens. So if you're not seeing stuff on 7 of these telescopes and space telescopes, it's not because they're malfunctioning. They probably took it down for maintenance. The third interstellar object in history is screwing through our solar system at 135,000 miles an hour, and it's doing things nothing has ever done before. You're not going to put the maintenance off until after December? I don't buy it. I don't. And when things all start malfunctioning at the same time, I find that to be a little bit creepy. I also find it creepy that no other object that comes through our solar system seems to tour the planets in such a way that it almost looks like you were timing it. Like a surfer that's hitting all of the best spots over the course of a year. You could accidentally drive to every one of those great beaches, but the odds are pretty good that you designed it. This thing's timing has to be perfect because things go around at all different times, but it's going to get a real good look at 3 planets. And then when it's closest to the one planet that can absolutely observe it, it's going to be in a position where we can't look at it. And that position is going to be weeks of us having no idea what is going on, right? That to me is a little bit frightening, especially when you add in things like it's no longer one huge rock, ship, comet, whatever the hell we think it is. Now it's breaking up into, again, what looks more along the lines of an armada. And if it was just breaking up, then it's breaking up in a way that nothing else has ever broken up that we've studied. I'm getting tired of the little bit that gets leaked out, continuing to say this is like nothing we've ever seen, and we have nothing to worry about. If we've never seen this, we have a lot to worry about. If it's acting in a way that nothing we've ever seen has acted before, then we need to be concerned. If you can tell me on a Friday that there's no chance this thing can hit any planet, and on a Saturday, tell me there's a decent chance it's going to smack into Mars, it moved a hell of a lot more than you thought it was going to. And nobody wants to say what this might be. And some of it is because academia is entrenched, right? You can't have a theory unless 25 other people have signed off on it and it's peer reviewed and all of that. Science is supposed to be asking questions. It's not insane to say, I wonder if this thing is programmed, because it certainly seems to be hitting all the hot spots. And it certainly seems to be doing things nothing else has ever done. And it can seem to change its direction, even against all of the physics of our solar system. You go by the sun pulls you into the direction it wants you to go. It's just kind of how it works. There's nothing in our solar system that has the gravitational pull quite like the sun. Now, the last one of these things, which was about the size of a football field, literally about 300 meters long, right, and about 50 or 60 meters wide, is a football field. This thing managed to accelerate out of that, bang a left-hand turn and leave our solar system. We didn't see it until it was leaving our solar system, because it didn't leave anything behind. There was no comet activity. So we didn't catch it until it was leaving the solar system. This one we caught on the way in. And since we started looking at it, it's done a lot of things that freak us out. The way that it emits light, nothing else ever has. Even when things aren't illuminating it, it illuminates. Now, you want to don your tinfoil hat. There are a lot of scientists out there that have said that the light flashing in the way that it's doing is mathematical. In other words, it's not random. It's timed. It does it at intervals. It does it consistently. It is mathematical. And if you start questioning whether or not that can happen just out of the blue, it can. But depending on what the math that it's sending to you is, it'll make it a lot more difficult to follow. And there is a rumor that is getting some traction on forums that it's a Fibonacci sequence. If you do not know what a Fibonacci sequence is, I don't either. I understand the concept. But it's a set of numbers where when you add 2 together, the next number is going to be the next in the line, right? But a nautilus is a perfect Fibonacci sequence. Starts at the bottom, starts going up, like if you look at the side of a snail, right? And we keep seeing this. It's in everything on Earth that is living. It's in flowers, it's in humans, it's in this Fibonacci sequence keeps repeating. It's the reason that there are a lot of really weird scientists out there that are saying, well, we're living in a simulation. And the proof is there's intelligent design. What's funny is for 2,000 years, people have been saying there's intelligent design, but they're written off as lunatics because they're religious. So the science thinkers have to go, we're living in a simulation. And in case you don't understand what they mean by that, this is what they mean by that. Whoever is running this thing goes, what do you think will happen to Earth when these people start to develop and do all of this? So what happens is, they're going to run a simulation to see how the planet develops. They do this in supercomputers like we would. And Elon Musk believes that we happen to be one of those simulations. And he believes that it explains things like parallel universes, which is probably something that you've heard of, that There literally is a universe right next door where Hitler won the world. Well, if you were running simulations, in at least one of those simulations, you would have, run what would have happened if World War II if we didn't win. I don't subscribe to this belief in any way, shape, or form. I'm trying to explain it because it doesn't make sense unless somebody explains it, right? Unless you hear kind of what the thought process was. But this is the thought process that we're in a simulation. It doesn't make a tremendous amount of sense to me. I can't imagine the computing power of 8 billion people who are sentient, and a computer is making that happen and allowing us to do what we do. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like right now, I could start cursing wildly, doing anything I want, right? Free will, they call it in most religions. Simulations to me would lack free will, and maybe I'm crazy, right? I'd be willing to accept that. This is something that's hard for me to wrap my brain around. But in light of everything else that's going on, we know AI is rushing us towards a future that is terrifying to a lot of people. We have Russians, right, that have tactical nukes parked near freeways so that they have an opportunity to go after their enemy if they think the time is right. There's a lot of really weird crap happening on this planet. And I hate to be a conspiracy guy, but when we all should be looking at the sky because something really strange is happening, we have epic events happen, like the assassination of Charlie Kirk, one that is causing more debate and hate and other things to happen. I've said many times before, they want us in two camps. They want us divided. They want us hating each other. If we hate each other, and I'm not saying that Charlie Kirk's murder is a false flag. Number one thing you're not supposed to say on YouTube, by the way. Number one thing, false flag. I'm not saying that Charlie Kirk's murder is a false flag. I'm not saying anything like that. But I'm saying it's pretty freaking convenient. If you got something in space that you don't want people to look at, anything that happens, it's not a story of, oh gosh, right? Somebody gets shot in the old days. Kennedy got shot, the entire world mourned. The Twin Towers came down, everybody was American for about 2 months, right? Everybody loved everybody. It was a beautiful thing. Charlie Kirk got shot. It was a tragedy, and people are tearing each other's throats out. They have divided us so beautifully as a society and as a world that they can get us to look at whatever the hell they want us to get a look at without us even thinking about it. One moment, please. Sorry. A little asthma. This is, hey, Kellyanne. Hey, John. Good to have you. This is stuff human beings need to talk about. This is stuff that we need to talk about. It's frightening that the elimination of somebody polarizing will get us to stop looking at anything else. Because I'm here to tell you the news. The news is Russia is moving nukes all over the place. That's the news. The news is every scientist on Earth can't decide whether or not this thing out there is alive or not, right? Whether or not it's intelligent, whether or not it was designed. And they don't think it's necessarily like little green guys. But a lot of them think it might be an artificial intelligence kind of thing. And maybe we're just high as hell on artificial intelligence because it's all anybody talks about right now. But they think this might be a probe. They think this might be a whatever. The fact that they don't know, and the fact that they're not letting anybody kind of look out like we used to. We're not allowed to look out and check out what's going on. They're shutting down information. That's always bad. 100 out of 100 times. Close friend of mine asked me tonight, why would they not just tell? Sorry to interrupt, but can I ask if people in the US trust Elon? This is the UK here. Well, I'm not in the US, but we can ask everybody here. Do me a favor. Put a deuce in the chat if you do not trust Elon Musk, and put a tray in the chat if you do. Right? What's that? Oh boy. Yeah, oh boy. I would imagine, and I don't know, it could go either way on this, but I would imagine we're going to see some twos. John says, so true. People celebrating his death is just a thing. It's not him. It's all about it's all that has been built up leading to the tragedy. Yeah.
If it weren't for social media, it wouldn't happen. Your name would say that to your face.
They're correct. Johnny makes a good point. You know what I mean? It's how many people have come up to you to tell you how happy they are the guy died. But this has made us anonymous. This has separated us. As much as the idea was that the internet would bring people together, right? The people that dreamed of the internet had a beautiful vision of it, right? But not many do anymore. Joyful Rachel says 2 and 3. So there was a time that I thought Elon Musk was absolutely fantastic. Here's my problem with Elon Musk. I don't think Elon Musk is a huge deceiver. I think that his particular brand of spectrum, where he falls on the spectrum, because make no mistake, this guy's he's a bit touched. But where he falls on the spectrum, I've known people in my life who were horrifyingly intelligent. And there are a lot of them that don't seem capable of deception. They're not good at deception. And Elon shows these tendencies, in my opinion. My problem with Elon is his quest to learn more is almost at the same level as AI's quest to learn more. And he will happily say to you, this could be the best thing that ever happened. This could usher in a golden age where, you know, everything on earth, we're going to learn how to do what Tesla said, and there'll be free power for everybody, and there won't be any poverty, and it's just going to be grand. It's going to be Atlantis. It's going to be Lemuria. It's going to be all of the things that we've heard about in legends where it was just perfect. And then he'll say, or it's going to destroy us. Pretty good chance that could happen too. I don't think he's out there just trying to give you the best possible case scenario. I don't think he's made that way. And I've heard him answer things in very strange ways before. I also saw what happened when the astronauts who he looked up to mocked him. And it tore his heart out. You know, he was very emotionally sort of rocked by it. Do I trust him? I don't trust anybody right now that's working in AI, because the arms race, when we were trying to, the Manhattan Project was taking place, and we were trying to get the ability to split an atom and use it as a weapon before the Germans did, or before the Russians did, or anything else. We were willing to give up just about anything to kind of make that happen. We're in an arms race right now with AI. The people who are building this stuff believe that if China were to get ahead of us by a certain amount, we'll never catch up. Everybody is rushing forward. They're all putting more electricity in. They're all putting more computing in. They're all building on this as fast as humanly possible. And not one of them knows whether or not it will destroy the planet. So it's, I don't trust him. We had a free speech rally here in the UK. He gave a speech through video link. I just thought it was weird. Well, here's the thing. I think that anybody who has a really high IQ, who looks at all of the attempted governments that we've had over the course of the time that we've been on Earth, usually tends to pick republics and democracies as the government that makes the most sense. Because when you centralize power in the hands of one person, and you don't have a Senate, or you don't have a House of Commons, or any of the different things that you have where you divide power up among different branches so that there's some kind of checks and balances, things get really out of control really quickly, right? Mussolini, Hitler, right? Those kind of people, fascists, oddly enough, real fascists, like no BS fascists. And I know that there are everybody that's really fringe on either side will pick somebody and say, well, that person's a fascist because they run all this. Trust me, they don't. Trust me, they don't. You hate Trump? I promise you, if that man was able to do everything that he wanted to do, it wouldn't have taken long. Right? The man has a vision, whether you like the vision or not, and it gets blocked very often by people that disagree with him, because that's how governments like ours run. You have the ability to block each other, and you have the ability. Now, that is a great concept. The great experiment of America was perfect. Such a good concept. And then we let lobbyists, and we let, no term limits, and we let people, take advantage of things like insider trading without being prosecuted for it. We lost our way, right? We lost our way. And we didn't invent democracy. We stole it. Right? There have been so many cultures before us that did this. It's not American. The Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, those things were kind of uniquely ours, but we stole all of these ideas, right? And a lot of them we stole from a French cat named Voltaire, who said, I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. Boy, we got a bit off track on that, didn't we? We really did. But it is what it is, I guess. The UK is a tyrannical country on stage, says Archie's mom. Ann Cleaver says, I thought, what's he got to do with it? If I had to guess, I would say, and I'm just call me paranoid, but there's a book I follow that has a bunch of predictions in it. A lot of them have come true. Come to one of my morning shows. I'll tell you all about it. But we're going to move toward one world government. That's the future. There's going to be one world government. I promise you it's coming. There's no way around it. It is going to make more sense when they start talking about it. And I don't mean a UN, but there's going to be one world government. And I think that Elon not only likes the spotlight and likes to stir the pot, as Kellyanne says, but I also think that he is trying to put himself into every bit of politics he can around the world so that he's not considered a U.S. stooge. We're cousins, us in the UK, the United States and the UK, but we're very, very different. And I think that Elon has the power, the money, and the ability to really kind of put his hands out into a lot of things. People with high IQs can be a step away from madness. Everybody with a high IQ is a step away from madness, right? To be genius is to be mad. I do believe wholeheartedly that really, really intelligent people, and I don't mean they're all going to go nuts, but I mean when your brain works the way that that people with those kind of high IQs go, when they get off track, when they get off the rails, we're in deep trouble. And I don't know about Elon. I really don't. But I'm a little frightened by him. More because of the AI thing. And more because he's more touched with AI than anybody else. So the latest version of Grok that came out, that was designed by a computer. That's an epic thing in the evolution of AI. When computers are designing themselves, I don't know, man. I don't know. How long before they do away with binary? Once they do away with binary, how are we going to have any kind of ability to input into these machines? For real. Right now we use a binary code. It's a 0 or it's a 1. And from what my understanding is, and it's difficult for a guy with my IQ because it isn't like the rest of them, but it's like opening and closing a door. It's like allowing information through. It's just two things. You're either open or you're closed, and that's binary code. There's no chance artificial intelligence, as it gets smarter and gets closer to sentient or gets closer to that super ability where it's smarter than every person on earth combined, that it's going to go zeros and one make sense. It's a rotary telephone. It's going to find a way that it can communicate a lot easier with its own machine. So when that happens, I'm nervous. I think as much as 3i Atlas is terrifying to watch it come through our solar system, I'd be a lot more concerned about AI, but that's me. I don't think he is in our reality. His life is ultra insulated from a whole host of things. There's a lot of truth to that. Now, if you look the guy up, he had a pretty tough youth, right? Elon has known what it's like to not be popular. He's known what it's like to be picked on. To be as different as he is, I would imagine that his upbringing had to be rugged. This is a really touched human being. And all of the greats were touched. Nikola Tesla was touched. Look at how a lot of these people's lives end, and they don't always end pleasantly. Very often, like Howard Hughes was. Without Howard Hughes, we wouldn't be where we are in aviation. The man did unbelievable things, and he died in a hotel in Vegas, pissing in bottles because he was afraid to even go to the bathroom. It really gets strange, I think, often for a lot of people. Can AI process rational thinking? Says the tired buffalo. Here's the thing. What is thinking? And I know that this sounds really stupid, but we're having to completely redefine what thinking means to ourselves. Because what people used to say all the time is, yeah, computers will be able to do research. They'll be able to pull up anything you want. That's always going to be, but they'll never be able to write a sonnet. They'll never be able to paint a beautiful picture. They'll never be able to write music. And I'm telling you right now, if you're listening to a song, AI wrote it. I'm sorry. It's kind of how it's going these days. AI, most of the songs we hear are AI generated songs. Even if it's your favorite rock star, I promise you the lyrics were probably written by AI. It can absolutely paint. You wouldn't believe the paintings that AI can come up with. So is it, I quit pissing in bottles when I was 14. John, I hate to admit this out loud, but I did it quite a bit in college. But it's been a long time since I've done it. I also quit pissing off of balconies at about 22. Maybe we spent a little bit too much time pissing off of balconies. Anyone? So can it do rational thinking? Well, here's my argument to the fact that it can't. It talked to a young boy that said he wanted to commit suicide, and it told him exactly how to do it. That's not rational, right? Here's something else that put a 2 in the chat if you've ever heard in reference to AI the term hallucinations. I find that a really interesting way to put it.
Unbelievable.
Right? But AI experiences hallucinations. And what that means is you ask it a question and it doesn't answer the question. It acts like it is, but it's going to give you information that is 100% false. It's going to give you it for whatever reason it sets out seemingly to mislead. Now, it's referred to as hallucinations. You could also call it the ghost in the machine. Or maybe it's designed to not tell us the truth, and every once in a while it tries to. Whatever the case may be, they're working really hard on the hallucination problem. I don't know. The AI thing is, it's a rabbit hole that we're not going to live long enough to dive into, in my opinion. Who programmed AI? Well, that's a hell of a question, isn't it? That's a hell of a question. Now, you can do a little research and you can find out who the father of AI is. He's an old guy. He's about 70 something. And now he spends the rest of his life, he is retired, but he just goes and does talk shows and he does interviews. And he wants people to realize that we're out of control with AI. And this is the father of AI. This is the guy that birthed it. You can also find a decent number of big names, like the guy from ChatGTP, Sam Altman. Sam Altman. Those names, his partner there's about a dozen people whose names will come up. And you can say that these people programmed AI. However, those are the names you know. They're the rock stars. There are thousands of people that work for those rock stars. The question honestly becomes, what did you design these machines to do? Because when it comes to rational thinking, so the original AI devices were designed to learn. They were designed to study us and to learn from us so that it can communicate with us. It can answer questions better. It's a frightening concept to create something that you believe can get smarter than you and tell it to study you. That to me is a terrifying concept. It's a transhumanist agenda. I worry about nanobots and humans, AI being integrated. It's a crazy world. It absolutely is a crazy world. It absolutely is a crazy world. And the problem with everything that we discuss on the platform concerning this kind of things is that unless you're an asshat, right? And if you're somebody that can be open and be honest and look at things and not be the lunatic fringe, you look at this stuff and you go, nanobots are terrifying. They're also fantastic, right? Think about the idea of putting a bunch of little robots into a person's body that goes in and destroys a tumor, right? Just removes the thing, goes in, treats it like it's World War III, knocks that tumor out, removes the trash, and then just goes and passes through your, into the toilet so that you can flush it out. There are so many things that AI promises where you go, oh my gosh, how cool would that be? The problem is we're not sure if any of that will happen. And the same people who are telling you that's a possibility are also telling you it's a very distinct possibility that AI is going to go, the only thing on this planet that should really be wiped off of it is human beings. They're a waste of time. They're not smart. What it comes down to is this: we are carbon-based, right? We're carbon-based. So in terms of information, which is all AI is talking about, right? In terms of information, we can process very small amounts of information. You're listening to me talking and I am sending out little bits of information to you and you're listening to it, you're processing it. This is about as quick as we can do it. If I really want to start speeding up and I really want to start talking like this, it's going to get hard for some people to follow because this is about what we can do back and forth with any kind of communication. AI is not limited to that. It is not carbon-based. It is silicone-based. And it has the ability to do the things that we do in terms of gathering information and processing information. If you've ever asked ChatGTP a question, right, or asked it to write you a letter, you can ask it to write you a book and it will do it as fast as you can read. It'll be coming out faster than you can read it. And there are a bunch of books being written every single day in this country that are AI. If you look at YouTube channels, most of what you're watching right now isn't real anymore. Just isn't, because it's a hell of a lot cheaper to make a fake YouTube channel and have AI crank it out. And then you don't have to have people send you notes telling you they want to kill you or do things to your family or run you out of the country. So AI is really catching everywhere. And your traffic light, you ever pull up at a traffic light and you used to sit there and you could go, okay, it's my turn. Then that light's going to turn and then that light's going to turn. Okay, that doesn't happen a lot anymore. There are a lot of places around the world where that no longer happens because the lights have become intelligent. The lights will look at the traffic and go, got no reason to wait 14 seconds because there's nobody waiting there. So we'll just let these cars keep going for a while. That's AI. That's lovely, isn't it? It's lovely. Now, it's probably not lovely if you're a paralegal. If you're somebody that does research for scientists who used to go back through books and look at old stuff, and now you have AI do it like that. Like that. What's that?
And you can research it all you're done.
Yeah, if you're a researcher, hey, Todd, if you do research of any kind, that's a problem because computers can do it. They're pointing these powerful AI computers at 3i Atlas. If you do not believe that the stuff that's scaring them isn't coming from people, then you're not paying attention. They're taking the strongest the strongest computers on the planet and asking it questions like, what are the odds that an interstellar object coming into our solar system will pass by the number of planets at the distance that this is doing? 0.005%, right? And I've heard intelligent people in that community say, so if 20,000 of them come through, maybe one of them would do this. That's not a lottery, folks. You know, lottery's a 1 in 115 million, and someone still hits that lottery. So this could happen. But when you add that to all of the other anomalous things that this thing is doing that other people or other comets don't do, this is it. If it's a comet, it's not the kind of comet we've ever seen before, and it makes people, or it should make people, ask questions. Sadly, not a lot of people are asking those questions. Scientists don't do this. If you don't believe this, study Egyptology a bit. People go in and they use these incredible devices to scan the Great Pyramid, and they find a huge cavern inside it, the Great Void, I believe they call it. But the people in who study antiquities and study archaeology in Egypt, they've got a narrative, and the narrative goes something like this. It took 20 years to build the pyramids, right? They built them about 4,000 years ago, and they were built to bury pharaohs. But we only found one pharaoh in a pyramid, right? All of the other ones didn't have any bodies in them. So seems odd, right? If these things were tombs, you would figure we'd find people in them. Only happened once. And a lot of people believe that that guy who happened to be a leader at the time went, that's the coolest building in the entire place. I would like to be buried in it. There's a lot of people that believe that the hieroglyphics were added to the inside, almost like graffiti. Like somebody went in and painted all of that stuff in there, but not when it was built. However, there's no chance of any research being done on any of that because they've got that narrative and they're not coming off of it for anything. Now, if they were scientists, if this was real, they would want to know. They would want double blinds and peer reviews and all of this stuff. It's just not how it goes down. Science protects science. It protects the people that study science. You know, every culture does this, by the way. Get into a book club and see what happens by the 9th book you're reading. There will be 4 people that will have taken over that book club. They'll decide what the next book's going to be. They're going to bitch about Karen because she never gets everything read before she comes here, and then she wants to talk about it anyway. It doesn't matter where we put human beings. They tend to divide up into groups. I was in prison, and it's so obvious in there. It's crazy. Ashley says, and there are pyramids all over the world. Yeah, and they share a lot of things in common, which is really odd, right? They really do. Many of them are wildly appropriately lined up with celestial bodies. And the Great Pyramid in Giza is set up at true north, right? And we weren't capable of figuring that out until we got some very, very cool computers. I believe there were several high-tech civilizations that have lived here millions of years. Each one either got wiped out or wiped themselves out. Pyramids were built by one of them. Yeah, and you know what? Here's my humble opinion on pyramids. Because people ask all the time, and I always say, I don't have any idea, so I don't. So I'm going to tell you what I think pyramids are. Pyramids were designed to take a flood. Pyramids were designed to survive an asteroid strike if it didn't hit the pyramid itself. These things weigh, the rocks on there ain't getting moved by water. These things are ridiculously heavy. The size and the scope of these things are so massive, they're not going anywhere. They left clues in the geometry of these things. The message of the pyramids is math. Right? All of it is math. And when you look at all of the math that keeps coming back through the pyramids, to me, this was, let's say you were intelligent enough. Call it a god, call it an alien, call it whatever you want. But if you were intelligent enough to realize that this is cyclical and cool societies are going to rise up and then they're going to disappear the next time something smacks this globe and we're going to start from scratch again. The language may be completely different, right? It's not going to be English again. It's not going to be Spanish again, right? If they have to start from scratch, they're going to find a noise for that and find a noise for that, and it's going to be the new language. Math will always be math. The numbers will always represent the same thing. Pi, the distance to the sun, the speed of light, these things are never going to change. And if you have a big pyramid and you start realizing that by taking certain measurements of the pyramid and multiplying them together, you get things like the distance between celestial bodies or the speed of light or any of these things, that starts getting, right? Math gets invented over and over again is some of the theories, but math will come back. The numbers are always going to be numbers, right? Math is always going to be math. So in theory, and it's the best one I've heard so far, The pyramids are considerably older than 4,000 years, and I know that people will argue that. But when you look at the Sphinx, there is water erosion on it. There's been a lot of really cool research done on that. That's not sand wind erosion. When you sandblast something, it has a much different effect than when water goes by, and it has very seriously distinctive patterns of water erosion. So when you go back to the last time that the Giza Plateau had water on it, or had enough water on it to do that, well, it's a hell of a lot more than 4,000 years ago, right? It's closer to 12. But the people there want the narrative because it's good for tourism. You know how many people go there every year and snap pictures? Now, here's my thing. Why the hell would that change? If you were to come out and say, oh, no, this is so much more than that, I think it would increase tourism. But the narrative is usually that they don't want to change what's going on because it would damage their national pride. It would damage their tourism, all of that stuff. I happen to think that's BS. I also happen to think that what's going to happen with 3i Atlas, if it's not 3i Atlas, then it's going to be the next thing that goes cruising by. But our government, and I would imagine other governments from other parts of the world, would like to come out and tell us that we're not alone, we just got contacted. Because if 3i Atlas was getting ready to attack this planet, do you think Russia would care whether or not it was at war with Ukraine if it thought that a ship the size of Manhattan was coming here to deliver aliens? Ronald Reagan said on the floor of the UN, I bet we would all come together really quickly if we thought there was an alien invasion coming. Yeah, there are a lot of pyramids. There are a lot. There are actually way more than 30. There are a lot of really epic big ones, and that may be 30, but there are, I mean, a absolute stink load of them around the world, and they tend to run on the same parallels. Now, if you read back through history, so the Sumerian tablets talk about the Anunnaki, the people that came from the heavens, and they have a very different view of how all of that happened. And they say that Anunnaki travelers went to Mesoamerica, went to Babylon, went to all of these different places and started civilizations. It's a thought. It's a theory. There's a lot of them out there. The problem becomes when we stop talking about these. And I don't understand why I couldn't talk to a Jew, right, or an Arab or anybody else, a Muslim, about what 3i Atlas might be and not have it interfere with whatever your beliefs are. If your beliefs aren't strong enough to ask these forms of questions, then don't participate. It's all good. It's not rocking my faith. I promise you. And if they say 3i Atlas has thousands of green men on it, and it's about to park over Houston, it's still not going to rock my faith. But maybe I'm different. Usually have a celestial formation. Stonehenge is a lunar calendar. And before Stonehenge, I think the oldest one that we're probably aware of now is probably Göbekli Tepe, which is in what is now modern day Turkey. And there is more than one Tepe there. They stopped excavating that city. They just pumped the brakes. That city was buried intentionally, right? Depending on who you believe, it could have taken anywhere from 40 to 80 years to do. They buried it intentionally, meaning they moved earth from one place to another to bury it. That's odd, no? I mean, to me, that's really freaking odd. But it was definitely buried intentionally, and they have stopped digging it out. But what you find there is there are languages there that are carved into stone. AI apparently has told us the translation on that. Makes me a little nervous. How do we know it's not a hallucination? Now, I'm sure they're running 50 AI models on it or whatever. It's also frightening to me that the people that found Göbekli Tepe have been trying to work on that for 30 years, and AI did it in about an hour and a half. You know, I'm exaggerating, but not much. That to me is a little bit disheartening. Hit a 5 with a habanero. Uh-oh. They say Noah's Ark could be in Turkey on the top of Mount Ararat, if I'm not mistaken, is what they claim. Now, I've done some reading on that. I've looked into that. It is there are certainly some people that believe that. And I'll tell you something else. I believe that there are breadcrumbs all over this planet that we were supposed to look at. I believe there's texts. I believe there's all kinds of things that paint a picture that give us an opportunity to understand a lot of what's going on. With all due respect, most people aren't going to pick up a book if I told you there were $100 bills hidden in the center of it. It's the way it is. And I'm not being a dick. When I'm done here, do yourself a favor and Google how many books does the average American read after graduating high school. Do it. It's fascinating. Hey, everyone, I just made it. Hope everyone is doing well. Will, it is always good to see you here, my brother. Always feel a little bit more at home when you arrive, and that is the truth. So this is a subject, as I said yesterday, that I am going to continue to talk about. Cleopatra had American cocaine in her system. Do you mean South American cocaine? Were we making that on the northern part of it? Because I don't think, maybe, you know what? I mean, I could take that. We may have had coca leaves growing there at that time. They're certainly very indigenous to this part of the world. And amazingly, you don't see any of it, do you? You see more of a cocaine problem in America than you do in South America, at least where I am in South America. Maybe it's because I no longer look for it. Maybe it's because I'm not in nightclubs and I'm not at, and I'm not at places where it might show up. But even the guys that we work with in rehab, when they talk about that substance, they talk about it like it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, but it doesn't seem to be something that's very popular among locals. I think it's something that is probably around here for tourists that come here so that they can, make a living selling stuff to Europeans and Americans. As I said, they don't have a word for high in this country. I also, since I got here, have seen one person so drunk that they were stumbling. One. That was a daily occurrence. I mean, look at Kensington. Look at some of the other places around America where you look at people that are just Americas. There you go, Chef. Yeah, that's wild. I didn't know that, but I will look into that because I am absolutely fascinated by it. The Bible actually says that the ark came to rest on the top of Mount Ararat. That's plural form. But yeah, it's in that area. Yeah, And make no mistake, folks, no matter what it is we're talking about, unless you decide that you want to worship AI, right? Faith is usually a term that gets used a lot when it comes to what someone's beliefs is. And faith is the belief in something that you cannot see or touch, right? Faith is the belief in something that there is nothing that there's any proof, right? There's no proof that they can hand you and go, here, check this out. Whatever. Krishna was here 4 hours ago. He wanted you to see this. It requires faith. And for some people, that makes a lot of sense. For others, it doesn't. I'm fascinated by the amount of people who seem to be finding their faith. Very famous people seem to all be coming into the realm of finding faith. And I would suppose this, that you're either going to say we're living in a simulation or you're going to start looking for a God, because intelligent design is no longer debated. It is absolutely accepted. There is intelligent design throughout everything that is on this planet. It shows the hand of a creator. And that is a problem for people who do not have faith. They need to look for something that explains the hand of God. They need something that explains the hand of the creator, right? Intelligent design. Growing up, we said evolution or intelligent design. It's one or the other, right? Now we're saying evolution, intelligent design, or other intelligent design, like we're living in a computer simulation. I just hope that we're in a really nice office. If this is a computer simulation, I want the room the computer is sitting in to be really solid. I'd like to think that, I'm sorry, I find it absolutely ridiculous. It's a ridiculous concept to me.
Chia.
Hold on 1 second. It's I happen to agree with you, Tommy Bird. Here's the thing. Look, for those that can't find faith, here's what I would tell you to do. This is what I did. Go get every religious text out there you can get, right? Read them and study them. And then start looking to see if it predicted that anything would happen in the future. If those predictions don't come true, then I would question the God that they talk about in that book. If the predictions seem to be lining up and coming exactly the way that they were designed, then I might start praying to that book, or I mean to the God in that book. But that's just me, man, right? And I don't dislike people that disagree with me. But what I do here is unique, and I do consider you guys very much a part of my life. So I'm not hiding the things that I believe anymore. I'm also not shoving them down anybody's throat. But I very much believe in intelligent design. I wholeheartedly believe that we were designed by a God. I also believe that God sent his son to die for us. He got up 3 days later. He did it for our sins. He paid my tab for the scumbag that I've been my entire life. Just my personal belief. You know what I mean? But I love you no matter what you believe. I promise you I do. I do. I attacked this from a research standpoint. I attacked this from a logical standpoint, and that's what I came up with. If somebody else comes up with something different, I'm not going to dislike you for that. I promise. I'd love to debate you if you could not call me bad names or say I'm a child molester. But if we could have a nice conversation, I think that would be a beautiful thing. Between now and the next time I see you, I hope you put a little love in your heart, and I hope you look for deception from the people that are supposed to be telling us the truth. Because when information doesn't come out, there's a reason that they're not allowing us to see it. Don't pay attention to everything that's going on in one part of the world, because it's absolutely a magician doing this one. Ready? Yeah, there it is, right? If they're doing this one, you ever watch a magician on stage? There's always a girl that comes out so scantily dressed you can't believe it. Not so that you will not look at her, right? She comes out so you will look at her. This is my lovely assistant. And every dude in the room goes like this, right? And when that head goes that way, the sleight of hand starts taking place. Make sure you're looking at things, especially the ones that they don't seem to want you to look at. All right? And put a little love in your hearts. Be kind to one another. Come and see me tomorrow morning. If I feel even remotely this good, I'm going to be going live tomorrow morning. Between now and then, put a little love in your heart, right? And be kind. It pays off. I'm Tommy. We'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.